and welcome to Right for America, issues that unite, don't ignite. I am your host, Cindy Gross, also known as the Jewess Patriot. But all of you know, you don't have to be Jewish to be a part of our show. And please remember, the views and opinions of our guest do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the America First Warehouse, Right for America, WGBB Radio, any of the outlets I write for, and Cindy's Corners Productions. I haven't been here in a long time in studio, and I'm so excited to be with you today. But I must remind you that I open each and every show with my pearls of wisdom, because my name is Zisel Perel, and that means sweet pearl in Yiddish. And boy, oh boy, it's been a long time since we had an opening, so there's a lot to discuss. First of all, some of you know that I was representing the American government at the at the World Zionist Congress in Israel the past 2 weeks, and I will be talking about that in my closing. But I really want to start talking about an article I wrote this week immediately after the elections called I Told You So. I hate to admit it, but I told you so. And thoughts on the 2025 elections and what's going to happen in the midterms. I told you so that it was not going to be a very good night for Republicans. I had met the candidates. I've known some of the candidates. I got a feeling from people around the country who I spoke with, met. I went to grassroots events, and then I went to events where high public figures and elected officials were discussing 2025 and 2026. I knew that Jack Ciattarelli was not going to win the governorship in New Jersey, despite all the talk about it and the anticipation. Personally, and many people agreed after they read my article, they agreed that we should have a law within Republican politics that anybody who loses 2 consecutive races should not be allowed to run a third time. Do you know that Jack Ciattarelli lost by a bigger percentage this time than the last time? When people don't want you the first and second time, you cannot be a career candidate. You have to pass the baton to somebody else. As far as Virginia was very, very, very questionable from the beginning, because so many people from Washington, D.C. in federal jobs live in the areas surrounding the Capitol and government buildings where they work in Virginia. You know what was truly sad? Race and hate became so much a part of this campaign statewide. And the fact that they have somebody now elected to Attorney General in Virginia that stands with the Democratic Socialist and is the highest ranking state elected official is really scary. We're not talking about that too much because everybody was focusing in on New York and the Mamdani race. I told people not to support Andrew Cuomo and not to support Eric Adams. They had failed campaigns in the primary. Why do you think after a failed campaign, all of a sudden they were going to be victorious? It's a very good idea for young people and even some older people to study American politics and show me how many times third-party candidates win. Think Ross Perot. Think Ralph Nader. Think Jill Stein. There are others. I know people were comparing this race to when Mayor Lindsay won the New York mayor's race 50 years ago. But the demographics of New York changed drastically. And probably even a Rudy Giuliani could not be victorious today. Young people, many women, and the majority of voters that voted for Mamdani were foreign-born. You have to think about that. And we have to work harder towards finding ways to be victorious in blue states. Here is one suggestion. Stop blaming each other locally and start blaming the people at the head of the national Republican clubs, the national federations, the super PACs that only focus on presidential campaigns and elections in 7 states 6 months before highly profiled campaigns and elections. You need to focus on 50 states 24/7 from the day after Election Day to the next election cycle. Otherwise, you are going to end up with a different kind of civil war than we saw in the 1860s, because the map of the 1860s Civil War was easier to draw. You can't have California, New York, Chicago, Atlanta, cities within states in a civil war because they are highly populated. We must focus in on national campaigns. We must work on common sense issues. It would not have hurt the National Republican Committee to run ads on CBS, NBC, ABC, CNN. You get the drift. The left wing, what we call fake news, and scare the living daylights out of seniors and women about the crime going on the streets. I'll be honest with you, I walk the streets of Jerusalem and Tel Aviv by myself in the morning and at night, on weekdays and at weekends, and I felt much safer there than walking in Manhattan, even walking in Queens and Brooklyn these days. That tells you everything you need to know. I also want to tell you that we must think about how we will unite grassroots activism and the high powerful people who are the big donors and the big super PACs and the big public figures. Because we have a divide that is only growing and it's not getting fixed. We need to talk more about the process of election integrity and campaign finance and term limits. You know, it's very funny how many candidates talk about it before they're elected, but then they go to Washington or they go to a state capital and they realize that in order to succeed and be reelected, they have to stop talking about the very issues they ran on, like voter integrity, campaign finance, and term limits. Those are just some of my thoughts that I've shared, and apparently a lot of you agreed with me, because since the article was published several days ago, many of you have reached out. And you know what was really interesting? Many Democrats reached out, many independents. One last thought. A lot of people saw Nassau County, where more Democrats are registered and more Democrats actually came out to vote, as the only place in New York State that really had Republican victories from their county executives down to their legislators and local governments. I tell people the county chair is a full-time job. When you show respect to a county leader and they show respect to their committees and their candidates and they're dedicated to them with money, with volunteers, and with a strategy, they win. Republican clubs, Lincoln dinners, and other events from small Republican groups that have 15, 20, 50, maybe 100 people are just not going to win. You need leadership that is as professional as your offices for doctors, lawyers, accountants, teachers, etc. Politics is a business, and it has to be treated as such. Yes, the Democrats have a lot of issues. They have a tremendous amount of issues going on. But I'm not worried about their chaos. I'm worried about ours, because before you know it, it's the midterm elections. And right now, who is energized? The social democrats, the people that are leaning towards communism, that are promising everything for free to people that are unhappy, jobless, worried about their health care. And when people smile and look nice, they actually attract people. The thought of an AOC becoming the next senator from the great state of New York is very scary. The fact in a red state like Texas, Houston now has an Islamic culture center. Even with Senators Ted Cruz and John Corwin and a governor like Greg Abbott. Do we want to be America, the leader of the Western world in democracy, or do we want to fall apart the same way London has and France has? My prediction is you're going to see a big shift in European power. And on a personal note, I'm very lucky because Donald Trump's new appointee for ambassador of Hungary is one of my closest friends, and I know what is going on in Hungary as far as working towards democracy and with other countries like Poland. You're going to see a big shift in the United States very soon if we don't work right now, today, on making sure not only do we maintain a House of Representatives, but we actually grow our majority. Not only should we maintain our Senate majority, but grow that. Grow our governorships. And ensure that President Donald J. Trump remains the president safely without impeachments till 2028. Tell me your thoughts. Please share them with the America First Warehouse. I don't want all of us to become independents, even though it's sounding like that. We are now going to take a break.
Most people think they have options when searching for the best deals when they travel. But here's the shocking truth. 100% of the major travel agencies are owned by just two entities, Expedia and Booking Holdings. They claim to offer the lowest rates, but due to the hotel rate parity agreement, they all have the same pricing, limiting genuine competition. When you book through these sites, you act as your own travel agent, but the profits are going to organizations that don't support our patriot values. We cannot allow that to continue. So, we decided to make travel great again by starting a US-based travel membership platform, mypatriottravel.com. We are patriots helping patriots. Together, we can disrupt the travel industry by not spending our hard-earned dollars supporting the radical left. For just $29.99 per month, you gain access to true wholesale rates on travel, saving you on average 35% and up to 65%. Book as often as you like, with no limits. Keep your hard-earned dollars in your pocket and spend them on things you need and want to support. Go to mypatriottravel.com/TAFW and grab your membership today. mypatriottravel.com/TAFW. Making travel great again.
Hey, fellow patriots, it's Cindy Gross here, host of Right for America from your favorite place, the America First Warehouse. You've seen me show on my show so many products from this country's #1 most patriotic manufacturer with close to 400 products. You need to exchange the products you use in your house to this company and make your dollars count in our country.
Live from Studio 6B on a Friday night, live at the America First Warehouse. Live at the America First Warehouse on a Friday, Real America's Voice, all across the country, 103.9 LI News Radio, all across your radio, Suffolk County, Long Island. Glad you're in.
It's me, Joe the Box, the America First Warehouse, most patriotic venue in all the land.
The America First Warehouse, a beacon for all to see, a symbol of unity. For the patriots of America, we stand tall and free. In the America First Warehouse, we're all
Welcome back. I am so excited to share with you some very good news. I arrived home late Thursday night from Israel, and Friday morning I got the text I was waiting for months. Way overdue. And now we're going to have an exclusive interview with Emmy winner Martha Byrne, who's been here before, because President Donald J. Trump gave her husband a full pardon. And she is here to share with you a story of corruption of our justice system, and a story of how she finally got her husband home safely, because he never should have been in jail in the first place. Many of you know Martha from her work on As the World Turns and from other shows, but to me, she is the ultimate patriot, devoted family person, a person of faith, and a real patriot who is so happy that she is a supporter of President Donald J. Trump. And here she is. Welcome, Martha. And I want you to share in the next two segments the story of Mike and you, and the 5 years that I know about of what you have gone through, and how it finally came to be that you received a full pardon from President Trump.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It has been quite a journey, to say the least. When my husband was arrested on October 28th, 2020, I never in a million years would have imagined that it would take 5 years for justice to be served. I was very naive, as was my husband, Michael McMahon. He's a retired NYPD sergeant, hero, never did anything wrong in his life, not even a parking ticket. Earned 78 medals while he was on the NYPD, was very, very much a contributor to the safety of the city of New York, changing it to become a place where you could walk safely. I mean, I don't say that ironically, like he was involved in the street crime unit, which actually helped completely change the New York City background, so you could feel safe again. And then he was in a bad car accident and retired. He could not climb anymore. He couldn't, run into burning buildings anymore like he used to. And he became a PI, and he got a routine case back in 2016. Just background checks, very routine. He worked part-time anyway. I was on the soap opera at the time, and he just loved to do the work. He missed it. And it was just a simple case. He made a few $1,000s, and then 4 years later, the FBI came to my door and arrested him for the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which you may have heard a bit about with Bob Menendez, Hunter Biden, and it was strange because there was no foreign government connection to my husband at all, like not any evidence at all. And interstate stalking, which was also bizarre because he had notified the local police when he was doing surveillance a couple days, and he was with 2 other retired NYPD detectives doing surveillance. So none of it made any sense. I think it's important for people to know now that we know is that he was arrested 1 week before Joe Biden's election. And at the time when he was arrested, people thought I was crazy, thinking that it had something to do with Hunter Biden's laptop and what was on that laptop. But it turns out that it appears that that was the case. Scapegoating certain people for certain actions to draw attention away from their own criminal behavior. And we just found out some proof about that recently, that the Bidens were actually using private investigators to look into their Chinese business partners in 2017. It just came out in an OIG report about Charles McGonigal. So there was something very politically driven by the FBI, Christopher Wray, John Demers, that whole crew, which they were putting out fires everywhere for Joe Biden. And so we fought it because we thought he did nothing wrong. And, what I've learned is that corruption runs very deep, and when they want to win at all costs, they will do anything. And so after he was arrested, we started looking into the subject that he had followed in 2016. And when he followed him, all he was told was that he had stolen money from a construction business and had fled to New Jersey, and they were just trying to find the money. The person said they were trying to find the money that they had stolen. That's all they knew. He knew. And if you Googled the name, it just came up that he was wanted for embezzlement in China, money, stealing money. That was it. So it matched the task. And turned out that was not true. This subject was a CCP Wuhan official living in New Jersey illegally since 2010. He was a high-ranking CCP official. He was not just a guy who fled political. He was not a dissident. And was accused of stealing $127 million, was the last number that I heard from China, and was found guilty in 2021 for that crime. So our government knew that, but yet they never spoke to my husband. They never spoke to U.S. law enforcement when they were investigating this case from 2016 to 2020. But our government, under that first Trump administration, the FBI was really off the rails, and they were negotiating with the CCP to send this person back and his wife. So a lot of the actions with the State Department and the FBI and the DOJ were really hidden from the first Trump administration. And when we went to trial, the judge and the prosecutors protected this man. We could not ask him about his crimes, his CCP affiliation, his crimes. They lied to the jury, lied to the judge, they lied in the press. They had the press as their mouthpiece to shape things a certain way, and he was found guilty. And was sentenced to federal prison. By the way, the alleged victims couldn't identify him in court, did not ask for any restitution or jail time, none. And the judge still gave him 18 months in federal prison because he had no remorse for the victims who perjured themselves on the stand. Nobody testified against my husband. Case agent didn't testify. And yet she put him in federal prison for 18 months. That was a few months ago. And he was sent to Michigan to a low security prison, which he was not supposed to be in. He was supposed to be close to my home in a sort of a camp. He was sent to a very dangerous prison, could have been seriously harmed. And thank God for President Trump. Thank God for Congressman Michael Lawler, who has been on our side since.
I'm talking about after the commercial, because he did play a big part. He is a good friend to both of us. So we're going to talk. I want you to talk about the conditions, how your husband was treated, and how, we've had many conversations, the limited phone calls. He didn't know where he was, tell everybody what went on.
So what happened is that the probation, which is called in the Brooklyn, the Eastern District, they write up, it's called a pre-sentencing report. And in that report were lies, out and out blatant lies about what happened in the trial. But unfortunately, that's used as the Bible for the BOP. So according to the BOP, my husband was a stalker. He was dangerous to people. So he was not allowed to have emails. I never saw him. I was never approved to see him for 3 months. He had limited phone calls with me, and it was horrific that what happened. And his case manager's like, you're based on your threat assessment, you shouldn't even be here. You should be like in a camp. He goes, I know. I don't know why I'm here. So I have filed a complaint in the Eastern District of New York with the pre-sentencing who manufactured the pre-sentencing report. But, it was too late. So it was horrible. And my husband is a 9/11 first responder. He needed a CAT scan before he left, and he was denied that. He was treated like a piece of garbage by the judge, by the prosecutors, by the probation. The day before he left, his bunk, one of the people in his area was beaten up and his nose was broken. Is this how we treat our first responders, our 9/11 first responders, our heroes in this country? Cindy, I can tell you something. It's very hard for me to accept that people would wish him dead over the truth coming out. It's very hard for me to say that. They'd rather he die than have to face the facts and the truth here. But fortunately, we had advocates, many advocates, who recognized that this was a grave injustice and intervened. Thank God. But it was incredibly unpleasant, very traumatic for him, for my family. And there has to be some accountability for this. It's there will be, I promise you that. The lead prosecutor has apparently been fired before Trump's election. It looked to me that he was fired. He left very unceremoniously. the National Intelligence prosecutor out of the Eastern District of New York. It appears he was fired. Scott Claffey definitely deserves to be fired. What he did, it's just endless. As you know, I wrote a book, thanks to you, called In the Interest of Justice, which maps out all the facts.
And by the way, you could get it still on Amazon. It's from Post Hill Press. And it is a great book, and we're working now on the very happy sequel. But everybody should really read it for all the details. I mean, a half hour here is not enough. I just want, before we go to commercial, if you can, in 60 seconds, tell us about how your kids felt about this and how it was hard for them.
Well, we're such a family unit. You know, we are so close, and thank God my children were inspired by what we did. They were behind us 100%. My son even became a police officer after this. After seeing all the horrific behavior of the FBI, he said, I want to be one of the good guys. But they were heartbroken. You know, they missed their father. They felt that he was abused. I mean, the press came to our house. They followed us. They took pictures. They had drones over our home. My daughter was 14 at the time when this happened. They are a disgrace. They are vile human beings that did this to our family, and they could have called my husband in to talk to him, and they never did for their 4-year investigation. Or since they never called him in to talk about what he knew and what he learned, and he handed over all his evidence. He showed them everything, and they still didn't want to talk to him. So my children are resilient. They're wonderful, kind, gentle souls, and this did not break them. Far from it.
Perfect time, because we're about to go into a commercial, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Mike Lawler and other heroes from the Trump administration that so many of our followers know.
Have you noticed your money just doesn't stretch like it used to? Your paycheck feels lighter, and your savings aren't growing. The culprits? Inflation and increased money supply. They've both been quietly eating away at your purchasing power for years. Today, the dollar's value has dropped significantly. You feel it every time you spend money on goods and services. Back in 1965, $1 or an ounce of silver could buy you a gallon of milk. Fast forward to today. That same dollar barely buys a couple of coffee creamers, while an ounce of silver would get you 8 gallons of milk. Gold and silver have held their value for centuries. If you had 2,500 ounces of silver back in 1965, you could buy a brand new Ford Mustang. Today, 2,500 ounces of silver would buy you 2 Mustangs. Similarly, in the year 2000, 628 ounces of gold would buy a new $170,000 home. Today, 628 ounces would buy you a $2,500,000 home. The problem? 95% of Americans don't own physical gold or silver. They think it's too complicated and too expensive, but it doesn't have to be. We offer a membership program that allows you to buy gold or silver with as little as $1. You can buy fractional amounts, safely vault them, or have them delivered to your doorstep. And you can liquidate them whenever you want at the highest buyback price in the industry. Ready to protect your wealth and keep your purchasing power? Scan the QR code or go to tafw.soundmoney.com to learn more.
All right, live from Studio 6B on a Friday night, live at the America First Warehouse. Live at the America First Warehouse on a Friday, Real America's Voice, all across the country, 103.9 LI News Radio, all across your radio, Suffolk County, Long Island. Glad you're in.
It's me, Joe the Box. And I'm John the Blanket with the America First Podcast.
That's what I'm talking about. The Fred Rubino Podcast coming to you from the America First Warehouse.
Welcome to Right for America. Issues that unite, don't ignite.
I'm James Justice. We got Stephen Ruth over here. What are we doing, Steve? Fighting!
Welcome to the Patriots Podcast. Good evening, everyone. We live stream every Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. right here from the America First Warehouse, the most patriotic venue in all the land.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the On the Right Side podcast here at the America First Warehouse in Long Island, New York.
Welcome to Liberty's Cage, the podcast tearing down the walls of America's broken justice system.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Kevin Downey Jr. Podcast. Be free, stay
welcome to Suffocating in Suburbia with me, your host, Stevie GB.
Welcome back, everybody. In the last segment, Martha was about to talk about our mutual friend, Congressman Mike Lawler, who was just endorsed for re-election by Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, and I know that President Trump is going to endorse him as well. Mike Lawler is such a special person. I always say when people ask me about Mike, and I shouldn't call him that, he is congressman, but I know him forever, I tell him he is one of the rising stars in the Republican Party. He is one of the shining stars for many reasons. He is a Republican leader that crosses the aisle when necessary for common sense. He actually works with the Democrats and independents in his own district, and he's willing to stand up for people outside of his district. And many people know that he has one of the best staffs. So tell us how you came to Congressman Mike Lawler and how much he helped you in this process.
Well, we're in New Jersey, so let's just talk about the fact that he's not my representative. And when I went to my own representatives, Cory Booker and Josh Gottheimer, I got crickets. I mean, I was at Cory Booker's office a couple of times and no response. So in my journey in the last couple of years of looking for people of support, my family members on my husband's side are in Rockland County. And the Pipe Hitter Foundation, who's been supporting us, we did a fundraiser for my husband in Rockland County. And my brother-in-law, Vincent, went to Lawler's office to make a donation and get a sign for his lawn the day of our fundraiser and saw Mike there, Lawler, and said, hey, my brother's going through this. It's a nightmare. I'd love for you to come by and, pop in and say hello. And sure enough, before Mike Lawler was elected to Congress, he came to this event. And there were about 400 people there in that event. And he said he walked in and he knew so many people in the room. And he thought, wow, if these people believe this man, he must be something going on here. And he said to us, he said, if I get elected, I will help you. Now, how many times have you heard that, right, in politics? But let me tell you something. He's answered every email, every phone call. I went to D.C., to his office, to Rockland. I mean, he was behind us 100%. And then when Mike was going to be sentenced, he wrote this incredible letter to the judge where the first paragraph said, we believe he is innocent. And unbelievable. Congressman Sessions also signed it. He spoke to the media about Mike. He got involved with helping get him out of Michigan because he should not have been in Michigan in the prison, and wrote letters to the BOP, I believe. So he was all in on getting Mike. He's innocent. And then he wrote and really campaigned with President Trump to get him pardoned. And he was the one who called when Mike was still at the halfway house here in New Jersey. He called, and he calls a lot, so I didn't know why he was calling. I was hoping I would know, and I answered the phone. He said, is Mike standing next to you? I went, oh, boy. I said, no, he's at the halfway house. And he said, patch him in. So I called my Mike, and he didn't answer. And he didn't answer again. And I was just trying to take deep breaths. And Mike Lawler said, just call me back when you get him on the phone. So I called him back, my husband, and he answered. And I patched in Mike Lawler. And I said, my husband, Mike, I said, there's somebody on the phone who wants to talk to you. And it was Michael Lawler saying he just got off the phone with President Trump, and Mike had a full and unconditional pardon. Unbelievable. The lengths that Mike Lawler went to. And Ed Martin also. I've known Ed Martin for a very long time. I was going to say, I love Ed Martin. Good man. Good man. I mean, good man he endorsed my book before he had just been named the U.S. Attorney of D.C., Ed Martin. And I knew Ed Martin before he actually was appointed and did what he was doing in D.C. when he was running the Phyllis Schlafly Foundation, and we became friends. And he was like, this is a crazy case. He recognized that there was a huge weaponization of the government in this case, and also was an advocate. I know for a fact that he was supportive. But it takes a village. And you know what?
Right. I'm going to throw out some names that are very familiar to people who follow the America First Warehouse. Roger Stone.
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, right before he was pardoned, Roger did this incredible story and started talking about this case on the radio before he even had me on. And just what he wrote, the truth, when he wrote the truth, Cindy, it's been so hard. The media was terrible. It was the mouthpiece of the government for this case. There was not one positive story about Mike in the media, except for the ones that you did and I did. And it was horrible. But so Roger, I knew he was an advocate. I'd heard through the grapevine, but it's so funny. There was some article like, we didn't pay a penny. This was all about support, organic support for my husband. So Roger has been fantastic, and I look forward to thanking him in person someday for his support. Really, really incredible.
Dinesh D'Souza. I know he was very instrumental.
Oh, Dinesh is incredible. We got to meet his wife Debbie and Dinesh, go out to dinner, me, Mike, the four of us, and we hit it off. Dinesh went through the same thing. He was punished for nothing. He had silliness, some silly, donation nonsense, punished. I mean, I think he said he had to go report every night for 7 months to a halfway house and sleep there, just to punish him. And we just hit it off. He gave incredible attention to the case, reached out to the president, and, from what I understand, President Trump heard from a lot of people about Michael McMahon, which is incredible. We're so.
How about Michael Caputo?
Oh, Michael Caputo. He's like our Catholic faith really bonded us because we had this instant connection when we spoke on the phone because he watched me on As the World Turns. He was a fan of the show, so he posted something on X and about me. And that I was following him and how great it was. And I thought, wait a minute, this is crazy. So I got to meet him. We went down to Florida. Mike and I went to Florida. We went to Mass together. We prayed together. It was just incredible, his support. Again, unwavering support. Fantastic. A new friend, like family now.
Well, he actually shared that you like family on his X.
Yes, it's true.
Greg Kelly.
Oh, another one. Another guy. Father was my husband's boss on the NYPD, and Greg also has had us on several times, and his take was so clear. He was a private investigator doing his work, doing his job. That was it. There was no crime here. He actually showed a video of my husband getting dropped off in Michigan prison and was just horrified by it. An unwavering support, always has, one phone call away. Always checking in, making sure, anything he can do to help, just keep the story at the top of people's minds. So, again, grateful.
One more name that I can't think off the top of my head that you probably want to thank, that we would all know.
Oh, so many. Oh, boy. Now you put me on the spot. Oh, Maurice Bernard from General Hospital. I would say, he having me on his show in this entertainment business, it's a weird business. And he had me on and interviewed in California, and it really was one of my favorite interviews. And I will tell you a story. When Mike was in Michigan in prison, Maurice Bernard's book was in the library, and my husband read it cover to cover, and he said it was so inspirational to him and helped him in prison. And isn't that beautiful? It's like
that is, especially when you know him.
Yeah, full circle. So we look forward to going to California again and having Mike be interviewed by Maurice to tell him exactly how much it helped him, because Maurice is an incredible man. Incredible.
So in the last 3 minutes of our time together today, share with the audience, what are the next steps for you, for Mike, for your kids? I know you said briefly, and I know already, I've been volunteered to join you on many visits to D.C. and something in New York City. What are the next steps? Because the corruption of the judicial system is much bigger than you and me, and I'm still a victim of it. Yeah. And who knows now with Mamdani if I'm ever going to have a fair result in my case. So what are the next steps, and what should people know?
So one thing Mike and I have always said is that when you go through something like this, you need people beside you to get you through it. Emotional support, financial support, legal advice, and we've lived it now. So I'm already starting with the Pipe Hitter Foundation. I'm already started working with other cases. I've been to a couple of court hearings for these police officers who were wrongly arrested. it starts with that, going to DC and now having a voice there, which, it's so interesting to me. I've never been political. I don't care about politics. I do not. And my whole thing is it's either right or it's wrong. I don't care what party you're from. I would love to get more Democrats. We did have an incredible report in the oversight report, James Comer's oversight report about my husband's case, and that's 20 Democrats and 25 Republicans. And it was that my husband never should have been prosecuted in the first place. So that's a good start, right? There's definitely an ear there. But we have to draw attention to the prosecutors, the FBI, and these judges. These cases go silent because nobody talks about them, their behavior. That's why in the book, as we say, in the interest of justice, you learn the tactics of what these prosecutors do to win. They win 99% of their cases. They have immunity. They can say anything they want. But I'll tell you what they cannot do is they cannot break the law. So in our case, they absolutely broke the law. They surveilled us illegally. They obtained search warrants illegally. We are not done yet. We are far from done. And 2 of the FBI agents have been being investigated. We have whistleblowers who have come forward. You have to build an army to save the innocent, and we have an incredible army behind us, so there's a lot more to come.
And, of course, I'm one of them. Again, Martha Byrne, 3-time Emmy winner. You could buy the book on Amazon. Tell everybody again one last time the name of the book.
It's called In the Interest of Justice, and it is really a playbook as to how an innocent person who did nothing wrong, who was a hero, could be completely thrown into the shredder by the government.
I can't thank you enough. I know you are exhausted, you're excited, you are overwhelmed, but I am honored to call you friend and warrior together, and I'll speak to you soon. Thank you for joining us on Right for America.
God bless everybody.
Worked hard
Take care.
Saved,
Thanks so much.
But inflation and increased money supply are eroding your buying power. Protect and grow your wealth with physical gold and silver. Sound Money. With a Sound Money wallet, your wealth stays in your control. Buy fractionally, vault securely, ship directly, and instantly liquidate your gold and silver at the highest buyback price in the industry. Real money, real ownership. Visit tafwsoundmoney.info or scan the QR code and start securing your financial future today.
The America First Ultra MAGA Store. For all your MAGA needs. We sell t-shirts, tumblers, flags, hats, sneakers, bumper stickers, and a whole lot more. The most patriotic America First retail store. The America First Ultra MAGA Store.
Live from Studio 6B on a Friday night, live at the America First Warehouse. Live at the America First Warehouse on a Friday, Real America's Voice, all across the country, 103.9 LI News Radio, all across your radio, Suffolk County, Long Island. Glad you're in.
Corporate transfer. Fine professional, moving and storage, and inventory management.
America First Warehouse was really the most patriotic venue that you can ever imagine. We wanted to build something for people to be able to come to and feel so comfortable and so relaxed because there is nothing out there like it. We give an opportunity for people to really feel good about themselves and about this great country.
The America First Warehouse.
Welcome back. Before I get to my closing, I just want to tell everybody, if you do want to reach out to Martha, she is somebody that you can reach out to on social media, and you could reach out to me and I will get messages to Martha, because so many of you are texting me now about the interviews, and we're very excited to support her and Mike and working through the next steps, because so many of you know people that are victims of a broken judicial system. And I can't believe we've come to this, our closing segment. My closing pearls of wisdom. And it's a little bit different because I'm really going to summarize what I did in Israel for the past 2 weeks. And I'm sure that you're going to see a lot through the America First Warehouse social media and my own, if you haven't already, of some of the highlights of my trip. In October, I was asked to be a representative for the World Zionist Congress that meets every 5 years in Jerusalem. And Zionists come from all over the world, Jewish Zionists, to discuss topics. Now, I've never been to one, and I didn't know what to expect. But if you read my recent article, I kind of thought it was going to be maybe like the Republican National Convention that I'd been to twice. And it was, in a way, big stadiums, long lines, excitement, lots of purchasing of souvenirs, crazy meals at all hours of the day, and an immense amount of networking. But this was quite different, because this wasn't about a party's simple election. In Israel, they have a real democracy where there are multiple parties and multiple issues being discussed. And the convention took place for 3 days. And within the convention, you had people on the left and people on the right. And it was very apparent from the opening events when you had the leader of the more right-wing Likud and the leader of the more left-wing Labor, and the reactions of the audience, that this was going to be quite different than a universal Republican rah-rah cheerleading crowd. And it definitely was. Every issue was brought up that's very similar to us: education, border security, religion, faith and family, money, infrastructures. You name it, every kind of issue was discussed. It was quite fascinating for me. And actually, it did not have a great closing because we left with some unanswered questions, which I happen to have found out today at 4 in the morning, because I'm still having jet lag and sleeping for 2 hours a night, that there was breaking news, and I'm very happy to say that my dear friend Yaakov Hagael was reelected as the head of World Likud. Many of you have met him with me in events in New York, in Queens, and in Israel. And World Likud is the more conservative party that would be considered like our Republican Party. And of course, the leader of the Likud party in the Knesset is Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. So that's breaking news that I got. And I must tell you, there was some... could we call it a primary? That's the only way we could describe it in some debates, because there were more than one candidate trying to vie for this title. But like in America, 9 out of 10 times, an incumbent wins. Somebody who knows the ropes to work behind the scenes and has had the experience. So like that, it's very similar. And for the next 2 years, I'm very proud to say my friend, my ally, Yaakov Hagael, is going to lead World Likud. And I look forward to being with him and sharing many great experiences. The one thing you guys would really be interested in was a discussion of Christian Zionists and where they play in the growth of Israel. And for the first time in a very long time, there was a discussion of working together. And of course, I said, I've been doing this at the America First Warehouse for years now. I've been doing it through my other podcasts, my writings, my congressional run, my work through various organizations. I've been doing it for many years. Because if we want to win, regardless of in Israel or in America or around the world for democracy, we have to step aside, realize that it's not us, there's no I in team, but it's us and everybody else around us. We can work together for success. And I was very happy to hear that and see that, because I am sitting in a location, in a studio, where there are many, many people that support Israel, and more importantly, support the relationship between America and Israel, and support the policies of President Donald J. Trump and his support for Israel. I am wearing a necklace that I bought. I don't know if you guys could see it. I bought this in Hostage Square in Tel Aviv. And people are saying to me, why are you wearing a plastic chair around your neck? I haven't seen this in America. Because since October 7th, at exhibits, in office buildings, at family gatherings, there is an empty chair, and many of them are on display painted yellow, like the yellow ribbon for those missing. And until the last hostage is brought home, we must fight, regardless of where they're from. And then the bigger job comes, educating people about the facts of October 7th, so that we never forget it, the same way people are forgetting the Holocaust that only happened and began actually 87 years ago this week with Kristallnacht. We must talk about the fact that not only Jews were killed on October 7th, not only Israelis were killed on October 7th, young and old were killed, burnt, raped, viciously attacked. And it's amazing how so many people who advocate for women's rights seem to forget about what happened on October 7th. That is a very important issue that I came home energized to educate the public on and coalition build, so that there will never be another October 7th in Israel or anywhere around the world. I also had the distinction of meeting Knesset members, of meeting people in brand new museums. And I will tell you, if you think that we are building here in America, the growth in Jerusalem, in Tel Aviv, and in surrounding areas is unbelievable. People walk around happy and safe. As I stated before, I walked by myself at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night on Jaffa Street, not thinking twice. I walked through the Arab Shuk by myself, not thinking twice about being alone or fearing for my life. And I can't say that about walking the streets of Manhattan, Brooklyn, or Queens. And that's a big plus. People in Israel know what they have to do to keep themselves safe, but are also aware of what is there. Don't give up on the Israeli-American relationship, because it's really the strongest allies together. I will tell you, wherever I went, whether or not it was in Germantown, Jerusalem, where a lot of Americans live, whether or not it was a pizza store on Ben Yehuda Street, everywhere you went were posters and banners and T-shirts and yarmulkes, all thanking President Trump for everything he has done for the hostages. The thanks were universal. I wish people in America saw what we saw there as gratitude, because it was just an unbelievable experience. I will tell you, the food trends, while I was there, it was actually Tel Aviv Fashion Week, and designers were there that just came from Paris and from New York Fashion Week. It is a thriving country, and it's asking for all of you to go and visit, and if you want to, make Aliyah and live there. It doesn't discriminate. It's a home for Jews, Christians, and Arabs. I could tell you, I had Arab cab drivers, I had Arab people working with me throughout my trip. They were telling me stories how they love to live in Israel. And the best thing I could tell you is do not listen to the fake news that is being spread through social media or from the left and even from the extreme right. People choose to live in Israel because they could be educated, they can make a living, they could have a great family life. And I'm talking about, yes, Christians, Jews, and Arabs. People can go to mosques safely to pray the same way they can go to synagogues. I will tell you that the experience was an experience of a lifetime. I suggest all of you take some time to learn about Israel and to take a trip because you won't regret it. I was very lucky enough to also be there at a time when, unfortunately or fortunately, the body of Omer Neutra was found and buried. And for us, that's a sign that a Long Island boy, a proud American Jew, was murdered for being Jewish. And we mustn't forget just how close it is to our own homes, our own communities. I will tell you one other situation, and I wrote about that. Don't give up on faith and family, because I had the best experience by going to temple, meeting total strangers from around the world, and being invited to a wedding, an engagement party, homes, and I now have forever friendships. And I am being encouraged to visit people in England, Sweden, Australia, South America, and all over the country. When we give up the principles of family and faith, we give up a lot. I will see you next week. And just remember, this is Right for America, issues that unite, don't ignite. I am your host, Cindy Gross, and you don't have to be Jewish to be a part of our show. I have a very special guest next week. Stay tuned.